Yeah, so I always look at the pages you have in your resume like a plot of land. And the question you want to ask yourself is, what do you want to build on that land? What do you want people to see immediately they walk into your compound? Do you want them to see the boys' quarters? Do you want them to see the soccer way? Or do you want them to see that grandiose lounge that will welcome them into your house? That's all left to you, right? So at times I see people put they put the boys' quarters in front. I'm like, what is this doing here? Right? And they don't know, right? That's just because they don't know. So it's a process of getting your resume from where it is to where it ought to be, to help you gain attraction, to help you maximize your real estate, or what you call your footprint on those pages of paper. You want to make sure that the first half of the page is already selling you. I don't have to get to page 2 or page 3 before I realize, oh, okay, she's a Salesforce admin, or she's a Salesforce business analyst. No, I want to be able to know that from get-go. So, so that's what I mean by you need to maximize the value that the content of your resume is giving you from the first line, from the very first line. That when I start reading your resume, I just want to keep reading. Not that when I start reading your resume, I'm like, okay, what exactly is this person trying to communicate? You don't want that, right?
Okay.
All right. So where is your laptop at?
Something is updating. I don't know what it is, but I had to restart the computer and it's updating.
So is there a percentage?
No. Let me see if I can show you.
Okay.
Oops. I don't know if you can see it.
Yes, I can, but I can't see what it's updating.
Okay, so let me just remove the background.
Okay.
Okay. I think it's because it's been off for a while.
Okay. Oh, okay, so it's updating. So updates on the way. Please keep your computer on. Yeah. It's already past 10 your time. I don't want this situation whereby.
Okay. I think I can use my phone for now to see.
No, it won't. I don't think that would do justice.
Okay, so it's showing percentage now.
What's the percentage now?
It's 12.
12%.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it's probably is doing Windows updates.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me keep talking so that then we'll skip all that part once your laptop is ready, so that I don't have to like say, instead of just staying on the call and doing nothing. So I'm gonna give you the talk behind what you need to do, so that by the time your laptop comes back online, we just get into the doing, no more talking, right? So the thing is that I would say years ago, when recruiters do look at resume, they look at resume on paper, right? And depending how many pages you have, it could be three paper, 2 paper, whatever. There's the tendency that, okay, they want to read page 1, page 2, 3, 4, whatever, right? Now, but these days, everything has gone digital. So there are 2 things, or 2 principal ways that your resume is screened for the first pass. When I say first pass, it's like if I'm a recruiter on LinkedIn, Indeed, wherever, and I'm looking for somebody to a prospective candidate for a Salesforce admin role, there are 2 ways I can go about it. I can just put the role online and ask people to apply. That's one way. Now, I can decide also to now use an application, which is usually called an ATS application. It's called Application Tracking System. So this is an app that goes in, based on the job description, is going to scan resumes online and is going to come back with resumes that have closest match with the job description. Now, what do you think that app is going to be doing to score you a 5/10 and score me a 9/10? Why would it do that? Just give it a thought.
It's going to be looking for important words, like some selected words that are in the job description.
Sorry, can you say that again, please?
It's going to be checking some words in the resume to make sure it matches the job description.
Okay, that's good. And then, so, well, that's primarily what it's going to be doing, right? So, which is why I tell people that you can't use one resume for all job applications. It's not going to work. And now you understand that, right?
Yes.
Because every job description is different. So you can't have one resume that is just going to apply to all job descriptions. No. But you should have a resume, which I call your baseline resume, or you want to call it your master resume, which is what this process is going to get us to at the end, is for you to have that one resume first of all, which is going to be what you're going to have on your LinkedIn, that should hopefully check most of the boxes when it comes to any JD of the kind of job you're looking for. Which is why, for starters, I tell people that instead of having one resume for admin, having another resume for BA, having another resume for at least within admin and BA, those two roles are supposed to be complementary. And like I do say, if you're an admin and you think, oh, it's only admin work that I will be doing, that means you are thinking small. That means you are going to be an admin in a small organization. And what that means is that most likely you will be doing the BA role. So which means you have to know BA. Now, if you are thinking big and say, no, I don't want to be doing just admin, I want to be a BA. Okay, fine. But the day the organization loses their admin, you know what? You are the next in line. Would you agree with me?
Yes, I would.
So, which means that there is no harm. It's actually complementary to have both roles in your resume. So that helps you to skip having, instead of having two resumes, you have only one. And that's fine. Now, in your case, you are now bringing in Scrum Master into the mix. And that's why I now said, okay, make Scrum Master another resume so that you can have, for example, you have a role as admin, as a BA, because BA is like stepping stone to Scrum Master. And then you have, so again, you have, so that one becomes a one-stop shop. It's just that your current role will be a Scrum Master role. Again, rule of thumb is that whatever job you want to be applying for, your current role should, as much as possible, line up with the job title that you are applying for. If you're applying for a BA role, let your current role read BA. It can be BA and something else. You can't be applying for a BA role and your current role is Salesforce Administrator. Well, it doesn't make sense. Not that you don't know the BA, but when I'm looking at resumes for a BA role and I see a resume, Julie Jonah, and her current role is Salesforce Administrator, most likely I'm just going to put it aside. I may not even read it because I still have about 50 resumes to go through.
I've been able to log in with my laptop.
All right, so we can drop off this one then.
All right.
Okay, so so when I look at this, right? So let's continue the story we were saying around ATS applications. They're looking for those keywords. There's no, your LinkedIn profile it has to be relatively stable because you're not going to be changing your LinkedIn profile every time you have a job to apply for, right? So, but your resume can keep changing. So for every job that you apply for, you need to have a unique resume. And that's why I tell people, when you're applying for a job, make sure you copy the JD off online. By the time you are applying, you are being called for the interview, that JD might have been pulled down online. And then you are now looking for the JD. And that would be very bad if you have to go back to the recruiter to be asking for the JD. That's just like dead on arrival, right? So you make an offline copy, then you have a resume that you use to apply for that JD. Because what happens if maybe 6 months down the line, you didn't hear anything from them, and then they call you all from the blues, and they're like, oh, you have an interview tomorrow. which resume did you use to apply for that job? If you didn't save it with the name of the organization, the job title, and everything. So for every job you apply for, you need to have at least 2 files, at times 3, if there's a cover letter involved, with the name of that organization and the role that you're applying for, so that you can easily go back to it and know exactly which resume you used to apply. Okay, that's free note for you by the side. Now, when it comes to your resume, so when I look at your resume, it has all the ingredients to make a good resume, but it's not positioning you for attraction. That's the problem. So when I read everything you have in there, it's all looking good, right? Now, however, would I really have the time of day to read up until page 4 for somebody who is coming into Salesforce and I don't even know what you've done, okay, so let me do this. So this is the way I usually open everybody's resume when they come to me. When they come to me, I tell them, bring your resume as it is, because I want us to be able to compare by the time we finish. And I call that resume they bring to me the version 0, V0. And then we start working on it. Your first cut is going to be V1, then V2, then V3. I have somebody I'm working with now who just sent me her V4 yesterday night. It depends how far you want to take it. It's your resume. But I will tell you whether it's good or whether it's great. Now, and the first thing I do is to do a stress test. I put your resume at 130%. Now, at 130%, I'm on a screen that is 32 inches. So it's not even going to get better than this. If you're going to see, you're not going to see more than this at 130%. At 130% on a normal laptop, you won't even see up to what you are seeing right now. I'm using a 32-inch screen. Does that make sense? So I do the stress test at 130%. And the question I ask is, if at 130%, I look at your resume, what can I conclude? Who is Julie Jonah by reading what I'm seeing on screen without scrolling? All I'm seeing is a solution-driven, okay, driving organizational experience in working, ability to translate. So very, very good bullet points. But except if I scroll down and then I realize that, okay, you have actually done a lot of work over the years, then maybe I would be able to relate why you started this way. Because what I want to see is exactly what you've done. So let me say, not just what you've done, but where you've done it. Because that's what gives it credence, not just you saying it or writing it. Now, I can pull this off because by the time somebody is looking at my resume, most likely they saw my profile on LinkedIn and they really want to talk to me. And for someone like me, I'm already having a conversation that I am on the driver's seat. I'm the one telling you whether I want to do the job or not. So what I do tell people is that, so in your own case, it's a bit of a mixed bag, because what I want to see here is not just what you claim you have done, but where you did it, because that gives it credence, right? So when I read something like this, you are still talking about yourself. When I read something like this, you are still talking about yourself, which is not bad. When I read something like this, you are still talking about yourself. Then when you get here, you are now talking about maybe things that you have done, right? Large-scale digital transformation project to Salesforce. Now, this doesn't tell me anything. And I'm sure as we go along, you understand. This is a project, right? I can write this as well. It doesn't mean anything. Joe on the street can write this on his resume, and Joe may not have gone to school, right? Because Joe is not telling me where he did it, what he did, or his role. This is a project. This as well is what you did. Everything is what, right? I'm not seeing where, right? Now, and let me give you a typical example of what I'm trying to say. And I'll walk you through one of my mentees going from V0 to V2 in her own case. So this was her V0 very quickly. So it opens up. So these are V0. Now, again, if it's PDF, I use 125%. Now, yes, I know she's a certified Salesforce administrator, business analyst with over 5 years, focused on blah, 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 highly motivated, tools and competencies. And again, anybody can write this. Even Joe on the street who didn't go to school can go and copy paste this. It doesn't mean Joe knows it. Am I making sense?
Okay.
Okay. Now, let's look at her V1. It's not opened yet. This her V1. Now, first and foremost, at 130%. First and foremost, what do you observe?
It's showing the work history.
It's showing the work experience. And she's able to now actually have something that is, that speaks to her collective experience. Collective, that's what I say. Okay. And then most of the other stuff that she was bringing up, all those competencies, they are here. So even at that 130%, without me scrolling, I'm seeing the skills and I'm already seeing, oh, okay, she's a Salesforce business analyst. That comes up. So I know, I don't need to guess. I don't even need to scroll anywhere. She's currently working at Manifest. Now, what I'm saying is that you are maximizing real estate. In this space now, can't you see how much information I get versus her V0? Am I making sense?
Yes, sir.
Is it not the same person?
Yes.
Over here now, okay, she put it here that she's a Salesforce administrator and business analyst. Okay, I tell people all these things. What does it mean? SCA. I know what it means. But to an HR recruiter that doesn't know Salesforce, this means nothing. Doesn't mean anything. It's a waste of writing. Doesn't mean anything. Okay. Now, these are V2. So that was her V2. Now, her V1. Let me take you to her V2. Now, this her V2. What do you see again in her V2 versus her V1?
It shows more work history.
Shows more. And then, look at here. So in her V1, she said she has over 5 years of experience focus. And I said, why 5 years? You've been working for more than 5 years. So 5 years of experience focus on blah, blah, blah. Look at her V2, highly skilled with over 10 years within the last 5 years. Does that not make sense?
Yes, it does.
So that's what I'm saying. It's still you, but we are talking of value. It's like when you buy a TV, you want to buy a TV with more pixels. That's why they say 4K, 8K, HD, UHD. It's the clearer the picture. That's the value of the TV. So in this case, it is what I can get from your resume by just looking at where I am right now. What is your real estate? What value is it bringing you? So let me take a breather here. Is this making sense to you?
Yes, it is.
So when we go back to your resume, would you now agree with me when I say that your resume is not giving you value? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
I wish I saw your face now. Because it's either you're happy with me or you're angry with me.
No, I'm not angry.
All right. So how do we fix that? Right? That's the next question. Now, when I look at a resume of someone like you, I don't think you need a 4-page resume. Personal opinion.
Okay.
Max should be 3. If possible, 2. There's no rule of thumb. But what I'm trying to say is that you will want to maximize the real estate per square foot. You don't just want to keep putting bullet points for the sake of it. No. You want, if you can, so there's the paradigm of saying do more with less. That's what you want to do. If I can transpose this your 4-pager into a 2-pager, and I'm still conveying the same quality of information, is it not better?
It is.
Right? Because
Yes.
when I look at things like this, it's not that they are bad, but do they really deserve a section by themselves? There's no right or wrong. But if I can infuse all these things into my bullet points, then why do I need this? I said if. And that's the way you need to look at it, so that you have more space to put in what will give you more value. Now, things like this, they don't need to take front and center stage. Your baby's with you now, right?
No, he's not.
Oh, okay. So they don't need to take front and center stage. Push them down. You know why I say so? First and foremost, you can put your Trailblazer link somewhere up here, and that takes care of all your Salesforce certifications. Whether you put them in your resume or not, I'm sure somewhere on your profile, somebody will have seen that you have the certificates. Don't forget that. So I'm not saying don't put it there, but push them to the bottom. What needs to come up firsthand is what we have here. It needs to come up. Now, instead of all of these, I can tell you how we can infuse all this. I'm not saying throw it away. No, that's not what I'm saying. But we need to infuse them into your resume in such a way that this guy needs to be visible when I look at that 130% on page 1. Is that making sense?
Yes. Yes.
Now, these guys, they are good, but they need to go down.
Okay.
Because there's no way you'll be applying for this job if you don't think you are qualified. So if somebody really wants to know whether you are qualified, let them go find out. And if it's on the last page of your resume, so be it. They need to look for it. That's okay. Right? So the next thing now, so first and foremost, when you say profile, because this looks more like core competencies to me, not profile. Or anyway, you can, and then you could get something out of all this to come up with like a 2-paragraph intro. So you're still using some of them. Then things like this is a project in itself. And when you now say you are doing work experience in a place like this, people will take you more serious. If you're saying you're a business analyst, you're a project manager, and you can't itemize the projects that you worked on, that's a big no-no. You can't be in an organization from July 2021 to date. That's about 2 years. And you can't tell me you can't itemize 2 projects that you worked on. I always estimate 1 project for every 6 months of time on your resume. That's a fair estimate. So if you are saying 2 years, we're talking of about 4 projects, minimum 3. You put them here up front, and then your bullet points would reflect the things that you did on those projects. It doesn't have to be very specific to that particular project, but it should have things that are common, especially when you have multiple projects. What you are trying to showcase is, number 1, you've worked in a project environment. That's very important. Because when in a 21st century IT space, you can't just be saying you are doing assignments like you will do in Black Force. It doesn't work that way. Things are project-based. Which projects have you worked on? And then when they now want to ask you questions, they will not be asking you questions like, okay, walk me through a project you've worked on. What happens at that time in that interview, at that point in time, you now start thinking, which project you want to talk about. And if you're not careful, you can get lost in thoughts. But once you put projects here in your resume, they can't ask you anything outside of the projects you put there, because that's what you are telling them you have worked on. So they're going to say, okay, can you walk me through this project that you have on your resume? And by so doing, you ahead of time, you better go and have a good story for the projects that you put. So even for you, it's easier for you to go through the interview process because you have now determined a scope. They can ask you something outside of what you have done. Is that making sense?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So then the next thing now is how many bullet points? When I look at the bullet points here, it's too much without even reading it. And I'm not saying they're not good, because again, you want to maximize real estate, right? And as much as possible, you don't want to be repeating bullet points all across your resume. Even if you are repeating things like, okay, gathering key requirements, that's something that most likely may feature in every role because it is key, right? Now, but you don't want a situation whereby, look at this, too long. This is another one, Salesforce administrator. So when I'm saying it's too long, it's not that it's too long, but do you really need all these to pass across your message? That's the question. Are there more creative ways how you can consolidate and condense? If there are, then please do use them. Then you come here. Now, you also need to look at the story you are telling from your resume. So when I look at this resume, let's see where you started from. 2016, that's 7 years ago. You started as a project officer. Now, this is telling me like, okay, are you on the project management path? Right? So let's say I want to analyze your resume. Then from that, you went into being a customer success specialist and a scrum master. And then what are you doing here? When I look at what you're doing here, okay, fair enough. I'll move, yeah, scrum master. Okay, and I get where you are coming from, right? With all these job title, it can be whatever it is. I don't care about all that. Now, but because you are looking for a Salesforce job, I can tell you that you need to de-emphasize what you put in the bullet points for any role on your resume that is not a Salesforce role. What I mean by de-emphasize is that nobody will care so much about things you've done outside of Salesforce. Now, does it mean you throw them away? No. First and foremost is that you write them in such a way that they need to be complementing your Salesforce experience. That is, they need to be transferable skills. And again, you've done a good job by most of the bullet points I can see here. Okay? But like I said, it's taking too much space, especially when it's not Salesforce. And the same thing here, right? So we need to figure out how to reduce them. If I were to give you an assignment, I would say number 1, you can't go beyond 3 pages.